What is up, everybody? This is Brian, the Toyota guy over here at Fred Anderson Toyota, and I figured it's time for me to do a bit of a State of the Union, if you will. I want to kind of talk about some of the cars that we've got here on the lot, as well as kind of how the allocation process has been working for Toyota. We're currently in the first week of March of 2025, and I feel like this is an important video to kind of share with you guys, because while we are a couple of years out of the COVID craze and the microchip shortage and all of that, we are still dealing with a few inventory shortfalls, I guess I would probably explain it like, that can make it kind of difficult if you are shopping for a new Toyota. There are some cars that are really easy to get, and there are some cars that are still really difficult, next to impossible to get. And especially now that we're kind of going back into a new and used car market where there's more discounts and rebates showing up at most manufacturers. Toyota is one of the ones that is still kind of stuck in the past. Well, not really stuck in the past, they've always kind of been this way, but it's a lot harder to get a discount or a deal on a Toyota than it is with other brands right now. And that can be kind of frustrating, both as a salesperson and as a customer, because if you're a customer and you're cross-shopping different brands, and you've looked at a Kia, and you've looked at a Nissan, and you've looked at a Ford, and all those guys have told you they can do $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 off, then you come to look at Toyota, and Toyota says, no, we can only do this, we can only do that. I want to kind of explain a little bit on why that is, and some of the cars that you can get deals on, and some of the ones that it's just not even really worth trying, honestly, both for you to try to get it and for me to even try to ask my manager as well. So I want to preface that I work over here in Asheville Toyota. This is Western North Carolina dealerships. That means we are part of the Southeast Toyota dealership district, if you will. And I bring that up because there are some slight minor differences between the different districts, especially between Southeast Toyota, Gulf States, and the greater part of the Toyota area. I forget the name of that, the bigger area. But regardless, there's going to be different packages here in the Southeast. There's going to be some different promotions that are in the Southeast. Some are better, some are worse. So just kind of keep that in mind. So at least what I'm talking about is specific to our market here. It may have some differences on availability, specifically on some of these cars in different areas. So let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, so now I'm just going to talk briefly about some of our most recent allocations and kind of what the breakdown has been on what's been coming now that you've seen what's on the lot. So you can see here I've got basically a category of everything from what's easy to get, whether it be allocation or on lot, to what is hard to get over here on the right side. And I put a few examples of what our total inventory count kind of looks like, whether it be incoming units in transit or ones that are on ground. And as you can kind of see here with the Tundras and Tacomas, these are by and far our bulk. And everywhere you go, I don't care where it is, you're going to see tons of Tundras, tons of Tacomas. They're everywhere. And you can see here the Land Cruisers, at least with the 1958s. That is one thing that, strangely enough, we've been getting a lot of. You can see in total with the Land Cruisers, we had about 20 of them or more. You can see we had about probably 8 or so that were here on ground, plus there were some that are still in transit floating over. You can see the RAV4s, the BZ4X, the Camrys. So these are things that you can pretty much always show up and find on the lot. They're also the easiest ones that even if you don't see exactly what you're looking for on the lot, if you're looking for a Luna Rock Tundra, or you're looking for the bronze oxide for the Tacoma or something like that, even if it's not on the lot, it's a lot easier to get through the allocation process, through the dealer trade process, so on and so forth. Now, kind of right here in the middle, at least currently right now, Prius, regular Corolla, and Corolla Cross, both the gas and the hybrids. Again, those are ones that I'm not going to say they're super easy to get, but we've got 3 or 4 on the lot, plus another 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 that are coming through in transit. There's enough selection there that there's not necessarily a wait for those, unless, again, it just comes down to something, very picky when it comes to a high trim model or a weird combination of, exterior and interior. And then kind of adjacent to that, you can see I've listed the Crown Signia, the RAV4, and the Prius Primes, or now they call it the PHEV, the plug-in hybrids. Those are kind of right there in the middle between being easy to get and hard to get. We have a couple of each of these that are here now, and a couple more that are still in transit. And that's great, because in the past we didn't have maybe one of these every single month, and about one of each of these as well while they were brand new. These are still, kind of new for the Toyota lineup, and I think these are easier to get right this second, just because they've not got a huge cult following for them yet, like you do almost everything else on here. When they're that new, they're a little bit of a slower car to sell, just because not everybody knows what they are. I would say 9 times out of 10 when I'm talking to people about the Crown Signia for the first time, they've never even heard about it before. So I think I put this in this category because I think as time goes by, as more of these are rolling around, maybe not so much for the RAV4s and the Primes here, but at least for these two, as these start to circulate and more people see them, these could get harder to get. And these also, including here, these kind of come and go in phases. So right now we've got a pretty average selection of these, both on lot and coming through the allocation. But at times, we just don't get one, in an allocation for maybe a month or two. So this is good right now. There's still enough selection, but that could change. That's why I'm gonna put this in that category. As far as the stuff that's hard to get, I've kind of put this in order of what's the most difficult or most relevant to the least difficult. But all of these are next to impossible. It's extremely rare to ever see these on the lot anywhere you go. And unfortunately, this is some of Toyota's best cars, in my opinion. So Highlander, we talked about that earlier. There seems to be this weird shift from Toyota where Highlanders, whether it be gas or hybrids, you can see, at least on a recent allocation, we only had about 4 of those in our system, which when we have about 250 cars total in the system, to only have 4 or 1 or 5 or 8 of something is not a whole lot at all. And all of these, every single one of these, gets sold basically within the first day that they become available through the system. It's one of Toyota's best vehicles for a long running time. They have not been on record to talk specifically about what their plan is with this vehicle, because it's certainly due for an update anytime here. Same with the RAV4, I think that's coming in the next year or so. But it kind of seems like the Highlander is being replaced somewhat with the Grand Highlander and with the Crown Signia. And the Crown Signia, I don't know what I'm writing here, but the Crown Signia basically took the immediate spot of where the Venza used to be. So the Venza is no longer around. That was kind of the premium RAV4. They've killed off the Venza, brought out the Crown Signia, which is a bit more expensive. And then they've also positioned the Crown Signia as the Highlander for people that don't have to have the third row, because pricing between a Crown Signia and a Highlander, especially a hybrid one, are pretty similar. So it seems like they're kind of cannibalizing their own market, which is kind of why I think that we're just not getting as many of these. Honestly, here at the dealership, we were shocked that they're still even making these for this year. The rumor mill had been that they might even be gone. Grand Highlander, one of Toyota's best vehicles they make right now. Every single one of these sells before they hit the lot. Every single customer that buys them loves them, gets a ton of use out of them. And it's been a great alternative for people that want the room of a Sienna or want the room of a Sequoia, but don't necessarily want to pay for a Sequoia or have the appearances of a Sienna. So the Grand Highlander has been fantastic. Every single review you can read is basically, gleaming on those cars. But because of that, and especially because you can get these in a hybrid, those are really tough to get. And they have been for the last year they've been out. They continue to be, especially if you're looking for Portobello interior, if you're looking for the Max, don't even get me started on the Max powertrain. We get maybe 1 in 20. Grand Highlander has the Hybrid Max Platinum. So that's a popular thing that people are looking for as they're coming out of like a BMW Mercedes, but they're just really hard to get. Now, Corolla hybrids and Corolla hatchbacks. Again, each one of these, we only had about 1 on our allocation or through our inventory system. And while we get a lot of the Corollas and a lot of the Priuses and a lot of the Camrys, which are all, good on fuel economy or hybrid in this case, the Corolla hybrids and the Corolla hatchbacks just don't really show up that often. We have the one right now, so you can see the one that we had was it. There's no others that are coming through the allocation. We do have one GR Corolla that's here right now. That kind of, is related to that. They're very different cars, very different price points altogether. But this is a car that Toyota's just not committed to making across the board. Land Cruisers, I put the regular Land Cruiser here because if you're looking for the regular Land Cruiser with the rectangular headlights, we talked about it out on the lot, but these are pretty much impossible to get without having to grab one in transit or do some inner working dealer trading type stuff. Sequoias, and this is what I find strange. Sequoias, and I didn't really put 4Runners on here because they're so new, but I would put 4Runner down here right now. Honestly, they're so new, they're all selling in transit, but we're only getting about 4, 5, 6, 8 of them in the inventory. We've only had like 1 or 2 sell. But the 4Runner has come up in price. The Grand Highlander has come up in price. The Crown Signia is more expensive than the Venza was. So what I find interesting is the 4Runner is in a really weird blended market where 4Runners right now are hard to get because they're so new. But when we go over here to the Land Cruiser 1958, which is really not that much more expensive than an equivalent 4Runner, I find it strange that we're getting so many Land Cruisers as a whole from Toyota when they used to be a really tough car to get, and very few Sequoias. So it's kind of strange because the script has been flipped on that. Sequoia or Land Cruiser used to be the Mac Daddy, $80,000 vehicle from Toyota, and as the Sequoia has grown in size, that has now replaced that in that segment. and now the Land Cruiser is kind of right here with the 4Runner, Bronco, Wrangler market. So it's kind of interesting how these two are blended between the two, but kind of an interesting thing. And then of course GRs, of course, the GR Supra is no longer a thing, that's being discontinued, at least for now. The 8.6 is still around, although we're pretty sure it's on its last leg, because it looks like Toyota might be redoing that car potentially over the next few years and getting rid of the Subaru partnership. So that'll be nice to see. And GR Corollas, I still love those cars. They're still a little hard to get. We've got one right now that's a core model, and it's got the performance pack, but I think if it were a premium, it probably would have sold already. But these can still be hard to get. You can find them on lots like you can right now. I am starting to see a few deals on these, but again, if you're looking for specific colors or things like that, almost every store will get like one GR Corolla, one or two maybe TRD Pro Sequoias, and same thing when it comes to TRD Pros and Grand Highlander Hybrid Maxes. Basically the top of whatever Toyota has for everything, we only maybe get one or two of. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for like an XLE Camry, those are pretty easy to get. If you're looking for an SE Camry, which are great, those are easy to get. So they definitely have a lot more inventory in the middle range, not so much in the far extremes like the SRs. We talked about one outside for the SR Tacomas and Tundras. Not a ton of those are around, but there's enough. There's enough that if you're looking for them, they exist. And there's tons of these mid trims. So it's a lot of inventory right now, but it's kind of heavily weighted in specific segments and very sparse in some of these. So honestly, some of the best cars for Toyota: Highlander, Grand, Land Cruiser, Sequoia, and their specialties like the GRs and Siennas, really tough to get even in 2025. All right, so now let's talk about why this matters. So if you're looking to buy a Toyota and you're looking for a deal right now, it's pretty cut and dry. It's all about supply and demand. You can kind of see that I've just got a super simple chart here. If you've got availability on one axis and everything on the other axis is things like dealer discounts, manufacturer rebates, and special APRs, the more of the available inventory you have, the more options you're going to have from here. You can see that directly from the Toyota Incentives website from Toyota. So you can see here, I just listed some examples, stuff we have a lot of course, RAV4 gas, Tacomas, and Tundras. All of these right now, if you want to the Toyota Incentive websites, at least for March, have things like 2 and 3% APR shorter term, but they still have 2 and 3% APR advertised on some of these. They've had loyalty discounts where they've had like loyalty cash for Tundra buyers. They don't have that right now, but they've had that in the past recently. These things are pretty constant. You're also going to find, at least at our store, I'm sure others, there's a lot more markdowns, dealer discounts on these cars because they're actually sitting there collecting dust. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, the Grand Highlander, the Sequoia, the Crown Signia, Highlanders, things like that, GR Corolla, stuff that's a little bit more tough to get. These, you're never going to see any of these programs. You're never going to see special APRs on these. I don't want to say never, but I haven't seen special APRs from Toyota on these for a long time. There's no rebates. So what sucks is if you go to like Ford right now, you can buy a Ford Explorer, or God forbid a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and probably get $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $6,000 off from the manufacturer. And then you come and shop with us at Toyota, and you want to shop for a 4Runner or a Highlander or a Grand Highlander or something equivalent to that, and there's no discounts, no rebates, no special APRs. Toyota is just not going to incentivize these when they're just not making a ton of them. Now, there could be some conversation about if that's done intentionally, if they're intentionally controlling the market so they don't flood things. Toyota also is known to have a much better brand reputation for reliability, resale value. It's been like that pre-COVID. It's been like that for forever. Right now, Jeep and Nissan are going through some hardships right now with resale values. Kias and Hyundais, well, they've gotten a whole lot better over the years. They're still a little bit uncertain on how their trade values work in the long run because they're constantly changing the cars. Toyota's a bit more constant, and they've never really had a whole lot of discounts on their upper-end vehicles anyway. So if you're showing up to dealerships and you're confused why you're not able to negotiate a really good deal on some of these, when there's only 1, 2, and 3 of these that are around and there's no discounts from the manufacturer in the form of the rebates, especially APRs, it's just going to be a hard time to get any kind of discounts on. So really what I'd recommend is if you can work with a dealer like us, that while these can be hard to get, we've got good relationships for dealer trades because the ordering system through Toyota really doesn't work. We can order a handful of cars, we can kind of preference and kind of place something in there, and if you're lucky it gets approved and it shows up 3 or 4 months later. But it's not a consistent thing. Toyota doesn't do that really well at all anymore, especially since COVID. So what we have to rely on a lot is dealer trades. Thankfully, at a Fred Anderson store, We've got a bunch of different locations that kind of helps with that. And because we've got some lineage management here that have good relationships with some of the other dealerships in North and South Carolina, even Georgia, some of those, we're able to sometimes dealer trade. So point I've made in my previous videos with allocations is if you have somebody that's saying, yes, I can get you a Grand Highlander, we can order one for you. All you got to do is just give us your money up front and we'll order one for you. You really can't do that. There's some ways around that. But what they're still trying to do is they're trying to take your money, put a deposit on a car they do not have to sell you yet, in hopes that you will not shop anywhere else and that you will be patient enough for them to work their process if it's good enough and hopefully find one for you. At our store, totally different. I don't take a deposit on anything unless I actually have something to sell you. So if you say, Brian, I want a Grand Highlander. All right, cool. I've got a white one that's available. It's an XLE, is what you're looking for, but maybe it's got the wrong seating arrangement. I will try to find at an adjacent store a bench seat option or a captain's chair option or one in a different color, different trim model. And if I can take the one that we have and trade it for one that you want at another store, perfect. We do the dealer trade. We take your deposit in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 days from now as the car is getting built and shipped. It shows up. So I just want to keep that in mind. Again, refer to my old video when it comes to allocation process and how, unfortunately, even today in 2025, some dealers are still kind of doing some weird funkiness with how they take your money and deposits up front, because I've even seen it recently, so it's still happening. But this is kind of why it matters when it comes to knowing what can you buy easily, what can you buy right off the lot, and what do you need to probably have some patience and some planning for if you know you're looking to buy. So I hope this was a helpful video. Let me know if you guys want more content like this or what questions you may have. I'm happy to do more videos in the future. Thanks as always.